Good day. Today, my talk is on spirituality plus technology is equal to happiness. My name is Anil K. Rajvanshi. I run a small rural NGO called Nimkar Agricultural Research Institute. It is situated in a rural town or Tehsil town of Faltan, district Satara. We are around 100 kilometers southeast of Pune. You can read everything about our institute, what it does, in this website, narifaltan.org. Basically, we do research and development in the areas of agriculture, renewable energy, animal husbandry, and sustainable development. This institute is more than 50 years old, and all the details are given in the site. I am a US trained mechanical engineer, and besides my technology work, I also write on the issues of spirituality, and that is why I will talk today about my book or about the. I published a lot of things on spirituality, and this talk is basically the theme of my new book called Exploring the Mind of God. Through introduction, I have been writing about this subject for the last 20 years. My first article on this, on spirituality and technology, appeared in Times of India in the Speaking Tree column in 2002. At the time, the idea was new, and probably this was the first article on this subject. I'm very happy to say that started a lot of interest in this issue of spirituality and technology, and a lot of people have now worked on it, given talks, and written about it. And so the idea is in vogue right now. And as they say, copying is a best flattery. And I am very happy to say that a large number of people have copied that article and other things that I have written on the subject. Traditionally, technology and spirituality were not supposed to mix. However, I have always felt that they are complementary, and I have written scores of articles on this subject. And this book that you see on your screen, the cover of the book, Exploring the Mind of God, or how technology guided by spirituality can lead to happiness. So basically, this talk is about the theme of this book, and I thought it will be a good idea to talk about it, and so to make the all of you interested in this subject. And so this talk is a distillation of my work. In this process and in this journey, I have been very much inspired by Patanjali, sage Patanjali, who wrote the seminal book Patanjali Yoga Sutras. We still do not know when it was written, but it's one of the most ancient books and probably the first book on yoga, or basically the science of yoga. Patanjali talks very clearly about the interplay of technology and spirituality, and this has been my inspiration, and I have uh, used that starting point and showed that how in the present circumstances and in the present times this is as useful and applicable as it was written almost 3000 years ago. The theme of this talk is basically the following. Technology helps in improving the quality of life. In fact, whatever we are today is because of the technology. Each and everything that we do, the fact that I am able to talk this, give this talk on the Zoom is because of technology. Every aspect of our life is touched by technology, and technology has played a very, very important role in the lives of everybody on this planet Earth. and we can think about that the civilization, the history of civilization is basically the history of technology. Yet technology, if it is used for mankind's benefit, then it is fine. But when it is used, when the technology is developed for the sake of developing technology, it leads to a lot of greed, lot of problems, and that is what the uh, it has brought in a tremendous crisis to the world. And that is what I'm going to talk about: how spirituality and the wisdom of spirituality, if it can be tempered, then it can produce great value for mankind, and it can help us in developing a holistic and sustainable lifestyle. So technology is a double-edged sword. It can help mankind and can also destroy it. After all, the same technology which goes in making the drone, which helps you looking at the problems in the crop, maps things, finds out other things, is also used for putting the bombs and giving the information so that the very advanced warfare can take place. So technology can be used. Technology by itself is not bad. It's the use, how we as humans use it, is what makes it good and bad. I feel that spirituality provides wisdom to reduce our greed and use the technology judiciously to help mankind. And that is why I feel that technology guided by spirituality can produce happiness and can help us live sustainably. So these are the themes which we'll explore in depth as we go along. I will talk first about happiness because whatever we do it for happiness. uh, Different people have different definitions of happiness, but we all strive for happiness. In fact, this is what drives us. There are many inducers of, or basically the definitions of happiness, but they are mostly, um, uh, basically, they are four. People get happiness by name, fame, wealth, or power. However, most people get happiness from the following: they want a decent place to live. They want good mobility so that they can go and see their friends and do other things. They want to have a good and wholesome food so it nourishes the body and mind. People want good education for children because education is the most important thing for us to advance both as a nation and as a civilization. And we want clean environment and a challenging and pleasant workplace. Most people also want good and wholesome entertainment because then it can help in um, making their mind and giving them enjoyment, and enough money and resources to meet daily requirements. And finally, people would like to have least corruption so that the daily pinpricks are not do not come in their life and they're not bothered by that. United Nations in the last almost 10, 15 years, through the help of some well-known consultants and experts, have been producing this World Happiness Report. And I show on this graph, this is a abstract, and how the countries are ranked according to the happiness. This data was collected by Gallup, and so there's a huge Gallup world poll, which is based on which they base they have a lot of parameters, and when they do the they go and do different polling, then they ask for all these parameters, and the parameters are GDP per capita, social support, health life expectancy, freedom to make life choices, generosity, perceptions of corruption, and other things. Basically, the type of thing that I talked about, the most people feel comfortable and get happiness by having the following things. It's the same thing that the Gallup poll asks people, what do they think about their country? And based upon that, they develop this ranking. This ranking came just in March of this year, and Finland tops the world with a ranking of number one, and it has a score of 7.8. Unfortunately, India ranks very low. It is 139 out of almost 150 countries which are polled, and so we are very, very low with our score of 3.82. And I believe that we have a lot to catch up, and there's a need for tremendous improvements. And what I'm going to talk today about, if we do that, then the chances are that we can become a happy nation, happy and nation doing good work and trying to uh, develop uh, our society. This list that I showed in the previous slide is a very reasonable list. All over the world, people follow that. However, if we become greedy in any one of them, then the whole situation uh, becomes bad and everything goes to the out of the window. It is a greed which really creates a lot of problems. And with the greed, the above goals have led to totally unsustainable lifestyles. And it has resulted in climate change, very inefficient energy usage, more air conditioning, bigger cars, use of huge amount of fossil fuels, more carbon dioxide production, etc., etc. It has also resulted in food shortages because the greed then allows people who have a lot of money and resources to take care of the food for their countries. A lot of wastage takes place. At the same time, a lot of land is being used for fuel, which should have gone for fuel. In fact, a classic example is about alcohol and so many other things. And I feel that all this is driven by greed. And we'll talk about how to reduce the greed through spirituality. Because if we reduce our greed, then the world has enough for everybody. And as Mahatma Gandhi had said, the world provides enough for our needs, but not for our greed. And it is as valid 50 years, almost 100 years later on, as when he had said in 1920s and 30s. So this is the biggest tragedy for our modern times is the greed. It has resulted in economic meltdowns. In fact, 1% of the richest have twice the wealth of 90% of the population. It is amazing. And these people are increasing their wealth more and more. And the difference and the chasm between haves and have-nots, or between the richest and the poor, are increasing day by day. In fact, in the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, there are estimates that the wealth of the richest have increased many fold times, and the poor have become poorer because they have no jobs. They are and because the whole economy has gone down, and especially in India, the economy has taken a tremendous beating because of a lot of very stupid policies by the government. The gap is increasing, and it is also this unsustainable lifestyle has increased by pandemics because unsustainable lifestyle reduces immunity. When you become very lazy, you go from the air conditioned house to the air conditioned car for even a short distance. You don't want to walk, and then you do your work or shopping all the time, sitting on the air conditioned offices. Then this does not allow the immunity of the body to develop. And so at the first sign of a virus or something else, you get sick. And this has also again come because we are becoming a very lazy and a very soft society. And I feel that if our softness is removed through a lot of hard work, if our greed is removed, then we can become a very sustainable and healthy society. Because of the chasm between haves and have-nots, it is creating a lot of social problems because pandemics has produced loss of jobs, income disparity, and so all these things are connected. The interesting part the interesting thing that this pandemic has taught us that rich or poor, uh, healthy or unhealthy, not healthy or unhealthy, but For all other things, virus does not differentiate, and it is a universal. It is a the whole world is affected, and this is going to happen more and more. So what happens in one country has an effect in all other countries very rapidly because of the movement, because of the connectivity, etc., etc. So all of us need to reduce our greed and work towards developing a healthy and holistic world. The control of greed can lead to less hoarding and hence sustainability, happiness, and rewarding life. Happiness is a state of mind. Our level of happiness is dictated by the brain's processing power. A powerful processor can give us more happiness as it can easily satisfy the mind and resolve the issues. And because of that, since there's a huge amount of neurons and the neural pathways are used, it produces less of psychological knots. In fact, our biggest problem in our modern life is the creation of psychological knots. Because if you create psychological knots, which are basically the emotional trauma, the things which you don't like, the anger, and so many other things, and this reduces the processing power, and with the result that we are not able to look at everything very properly and analyze it. And this reduction of psychological knots with developing a very powerful brain is the genesis of wisdom. When you talk about and say that the man has a lot of wisdom, it is because of the fact that he is using tremendous amount of his powerful brain for analyzing all the situation and trying to come to a reasonable solution. A smaller processor or a smaller brain, which has a lot of psychological knots, which has a lot of less processing memory, needs more resources to occupy it. Brain is continuously looking for information and for inputs because brain cannot remain idle. And as it requires all this information, if the processing power is not very much, then it requires many more resources to occupy it. And that leads to greed, possession, because possession is a part of the greed. You want to possess because the greed impulse tells you to possess because you're not sure. You have a lot of anxiety, you have insecurity. And with the possession comes control and ultimately unsustainable lifestyle. And as somebody has said, happiness doesn't come from attaining luxuries, it comes from attaining inner peace. And that is what I feel that if we have a very powerful brain, which will have to be developed from the childhood, then this powerful processor can create more happiness than a smaller brain. And a cultivation of powerful brain is by long-term meditation, contemplation, and concentration. In fact, all these three things, when they are brought to bear on a subject, it produces its knowledge, and it also gives us a very happy feeling. After all the great discoveries and all the things, we lose the time, we lose so many other things because we are focused on that particular thought for a very long time. And this gives us a very happy feeling. This is the nature of the mind, that when it is working feverishly on a single topic for a very long time, it is satisfied, it gets satiated, you feel happiness, and it resolves the issues. And this is what gives a very powerful boost or a high for a human being. This should be practiced from childhood, and meditation should be a part of school curriculum. I strongly feel that meditation and focus should be taught from the childhood. We are today, because of the technology, with the mobile phones and etc., we are creating a whole generation of people, children, who react. They react to the SMS, they react to the messages. They are all the time calling or messaging their friends, with the result that they don't have time for themselves. They don't sit, think, contemplate. And human brain is a huge entity, and it needs to contemplate and think coolly and deeply, and then only we can become a better human being. So I feel that there is no very little difference between the animals and the today's children and the other young adults, because they react. Animals react; they don't think. We as humans with a huge brain have the ability to think and contemplate, and that is what we should be doing. So, what is spirituality? Spirituality with a very powerful brain, as we discussed in the last slide, that is a powerful brain has to be developed, and has to be it will come through the lot of practice, meditation, thinking, contemplating. You don't need to contemplate or meditate on God or anything. Any idea that you like, if you think, sit in a relaxed manner and think very deeply about that idea, that is what can give you a lot of happiness, and can show the new and can discover about that idea very nicely. With powerful brain, one can look deeply into anything, including the self. In fact, thinking deeply on any subject or object helps in making the object vanish, and only its germ or spirit remains. And this is what has been done by all the people who have developed great discoveries, who have produced great discoveries, who have worked on any project. In fact, when you work on any project or object, think about any object or subject, and then you think very deeply, then the time vanishes, all the pinpricks vanish, and you are so, uh, you know, all the time you are thinking about that object or subject, that you're so preoccupied that even after some time, the what you started for the object, it vanishes, and its germ or the spirit remains. And then the complete knowledge of the subject results, and this is the genesis of the spirituality. So I feel that any person who can develop this powerful brain and can focus on a object or subject for a long time can become a spiritual person. And it's a spirituality which gives us the sense of well-being, the sense of goodness, and a very tremendous feeling of happiness and satisfaction. This is called Sanyam by sage Patanjali. In fact, he was the first person to talk about it. And in Sanyam, he says contemplation, concentration, contemplation, and samadhi, in which ultimately the object vanishes and only its germ or the spirit remains, and then the great discovery of that subject or object takes place. And I feel that all the great discoveries I have read extensively on the lives of great people like Einstein, Newton, etc., and the power of concentration on a single subject for a very long time was legendary in all these great discoveries. And it is this power of concentration and focusing on a single subject for a very long time produces the results and the discoveries by the focused brain. The deep thinking capability makes us spiritual and gives us a sense of peace and happiness. It reduces anxiety and the greed for possession. Because when you can apply the powerful mind on any aspect of a subject, object, or any situation, you analyze it very thoroughly. When you analyze it very thoroughly, then the mind gets satisfied. And when the mind gets satisfied, there is no need for having possession. Possession takes place because your mind is not satisfied. You feel greedy and anxiety, and you always want to have the possession, whether it is an idea or whether it's an object, etc. And you feel that by possessing it, you will feel happy. But that is not the case, because when you possess more and more, you do not have the time to analyze what you possess, and it becomes an obsession itself. With the possession, you want more and more. So I feel that if you develop this great processor, analyze the situation, analyze about the object or the subject, then it allows you to let the object go. And this is what reduces our greed for anything. The most important thing is spirituality is not religion. It is a state of mind that looks for truth and understands that is beyond the barriers of worldliness, religion, caste, creed, race, or geographical boundaries. It is basically a humanness. You, because we are human, we can become spiritual. It is not whether you are the color, the person of this color or that color, or of this religion or that religion. It is about the basic quality of humans. And so spirituality is much, much deeper than anything else. It actually uh, differentiates between the people who have wisdom and the people who have not. Because the more spiritual you become a person with more wisdom, you can analyze and look at things in a very, very deep manner. Now I'll come to technology. Technology makes our life easier. It touches every aspect of our life. In fact, history of civilization is a history of technology. And in the old times, wars were most of the times won by armies with superior technologies. And the history is full of such episodes, whether it was Alexander coming to India or the Mughals defeating the Indian armies, all because of the superior technology, either it was superior um, uh, power of the horses or the cannons or anything. All over the world, this has been the case. So, in fact, everything that we have today, everything, in fact, the very existence of our being on this world is because of technology. It touches us in every aspect, right from morning to night. If you write down all the things that you use, you'll find that everything is because of technology. And technology is basically also unravels hidden areas of nature and shows how it performs miracles. And now we are following this biomimicry, which is a science of copy of nature. And it has shown that large number of very natural designs exist, which we can use it, and we are copying them. For example, fiber optics. We developed fiber optics in the last 20, 30 years. We thought that this was a fantastic invention. However, the root system of all plants is a fantastic fiber optics. And the root systems have existed through billions of years. Roots require light. Being under the ground, they can't get light. So they have developed this fiber optics. The root system is essentially the fiber optics. The solar energy which falls on the stem goes through this fiber optics of roots and provides the necessary light for the growth of the root and the whole plant. Similarly, when we are developing better drones, we are looking at moths, we are looking at bumblebee, we are looking at so many of these small insects, how they fly with very little energy. And we are working on, the whole world is working on how to reduce the energy for these drones so that the drones can fly for much longer time and much less energy. And the same thing with solar energy conversion. After all, the nature has been converting solar energy for billions of years in terms of photosynthesis, where the photon splits the water into hydrogen and OH ion, and the hydrogen combines with carbon to produce food. We are still trying to understand how it takes place, and we want that to be utilized for storing the energy and for converting the solar energy into useful forms. So large number of things that we are working on, most of the things are coming from our understanding of nature. And understanding of nature also happens because we are developing new and new tools with science and technology, so we can look deeper into the nature and see the marvels of what nature has done and how it has evolved and how it has developed these technologies. And thus, I feel that as we progress in technological areas, we also discover the great laws of nature and ultimately God. Because God is nothing else but this marvelous universe which follows its own scientific laws. And that is what Albert Einstein spoke almost 50 years ago. And so, as we go deeper and deeper into anything, and that is what I said, that if we make our processor or our brain very, very, very powerful, then we can look at anything, and that leads us to spirituality and ultimately to understand what is God and what makes this world so wonderful, and what are the things that gives us this great order and development, and that is a great gives us a great sense of happiness and peace. I also believe that the spiritual evolution leads to technological progress, and it's a both ways, because when we have a very sharpened brain, then we look at the problems that confront us and we produce a fantastic technological new product or discoveries. In fact, there is nothing new under the sun. Everything exists in nature. It is just that because as we are advancing in our technologically science and technology, we are finding about these solutions which have existed for hundreds and thousands and millions of years. And therefore, a sharpened brain produces wonderful solutions to the problems. So ultimately, everything boils down to developing a very powerful brain through meditation and through the process of concentration and contemplation. Technology, as we said before, is a double-edged sword. It is very useful for mankind, but can also destroy. And this photograph that I am showing of the large number of drones, they are flying in tandem, they are flying in a uniform, and they can go and attack the enemy targets very effectively, and they can drop sophisticated bombs. These drones are also useful for so many other things, giving you the medicine, supplying you the medicine, getting you the pizza, or so many other things. And so the technology is always a double-edged sword, which you can use it for good purposes at the same time for destruction of mankind. And a classical example is the development of atomic bomb. I had a great satisfaction of knowing Stanley Ulam. He was the father of hydrogen bomb, and who also was a very important member of scientific community in the Manhattan Project, which developed the first atomic bomb. So I asked him, I said, weren't you bothered by developing this weapon of mass destruction, which destroyed two cities, and killed hundreds and thousands of people? So he said, no, at that time when you're developing it, it was just pure joy of developing the science and pure joy of looking at something which has never been done. So by itself, science and technology development is a cause of great joy, because when you focus your powerful mind on a single subject, it gives you tremendous satisfaction. What is required is that the wisdom that should come from spirituality should be applied after the technology has been developed, so that you use it for the benefit of mankind and not for its destruction. So wisdom from spirituality will temper our greed and help us use technology efficiently and judiciously for mankind's benefit. And this, to my mind, is the most important part of my talk, that technology by its very nature will follow its evolutionary process, will become more and more powerful in technology. In fact, we'll become ultimately a galactic traveling civilization, but it should be tempered by the wisdom from spirituality. So we use it only for the benefit of mankind and not for our destruction. So what is the way forward? The way forward is we should improve ourselves by cultivating the habit of focused thought. And as I said, by making our processor very powerful, our brain very powerful, and this will help us become spiritual, reduce our greed, and make us better human beings. And when we do that, then everything else flows from that. The most important thing is once you have very, very powerful minds, very minds with a lot of human beings with a lot of wisdom, then they will do wonderful things in every area they touch. So we have to attack the basic problem of how we create our students, our children into a very deep thinking individuals and human beings. Meditation, therefore, should be taught in all schools and children, and they should be guided properly. You cannot force them. It cannot become another subject, because if you make this as a subject, then it will just follow the same pattern of passing exams. They have to be guided, they have to be made aware of it properly. They should become so interested in it, because after all, when they start focusing and thinking very deeply, they'll feel very happy. So that happiness should come from inside. We adults can only guide them. We cannot force them, and we need to guide them properly and seduce them so that they do it on their own. Use of technology to improve our environment and help in improving the lives of those at the bottom of the pyramid. No matter how self-content we become through our great processor, through our better minds, but if the environment is third rate, environment is not very nice, then we will not be very happy. So not only we need to have a great processor or great mind, but we also need to use our technology for improving the environment so that the whole system becomes very conducive for making our lives better and better. Doing that, giving, developing things for the bottom of the pyramid, for the people who do not have enough, it gives us tremendous satisfaction and happiness. In fact, when you have enough, if you share it with others, it's a great joy and it gives a lot of high to a lot of people. In fact, I personally feel that the people who have helped the mankind, whether it's Gandhi or Christ or Buddha, they felt very high by giving the knowledge that they have gotten by uh, sharing the knowledge. Not that they wanted to control, but they wanted to share. It is the sharing of the knowledge. And after all, the knowledge is a universal process. It is for the whole mankind. So it should be shared and should be shared freely. This should be guided by the genuine desire for helping mankind and not out of greed and control. Because if you will do this out of greed and control, then we go back to the status quo. And then all the powerful brain and processor will be of no use. You have to let it go. And this letting go comes only when you are really spiritual, very deep in your, when you feel that you are very spiritual in your dealings and in your process. And spirituality, I feel, will help in this endeavor. And therefore, I believe that the mantras of India's development should be spirituality with high technology, because high technology is required to make our lives better, and spirituality to temper the greed and the possessiveness. And with these two things can really create a new India and a new world. I always take great pride in being a citizen of this great country. Throughout the history of mankind, India has given a lot of new ideas and a new paradigm of development in terms of religions, in terms of new thought, the philosophical thought of India, the great Upanishads, the Gita, etc. Gandhiji's non-violence movement. I feel that spirituality with high technology could also be a part of the new paradigm for development for the world. This will help create a better and holistic world for future generations. Thank you very much for listening to me. These are the URLs of my writings. The first one, then the next two are our emails, the Second one is my institute email, and the third one is my personal email. And I have put all my books, all my writings, everything free on the net. And the last URL is about my book. You are most welcome to read it, explore it, and I'll be very happy to hear and to get your feedback.